Hello, ladies. Welcome back to Sports and Mimosas. It's Meredith and I again for another week of Girl Chat. How you doing?
I'm tired.
Yeah,
We're doing well.
I know. We were just talking, getting older
I
and just
stayed out.
realizing.
I stayed out till 2 a.m. on a Saturday.
Ooh,
That is
girl.
4 days away. I say like stay. I was in bed by 2, but
Yeah,
like I was still awake at 2, and I feel like I've been recovering
ever since.
ever since. That
Same here.
yes, that
Same
yes,
here. So, but you had a good weekend?
I did. And then, but you had a big fun one.
I did. So we did stay past, I guess it was 12 o'clock really in our bodies because we were on the East Coast. So we got in about one
Oh yeah,
o'clock into our hotel. But we got to go to New York. Such a fun trip. We were originally just going to see The Wiz on Broadway, which is my first Broadway show, which is very, very good. So if you're in New York, that's a good show to go see. It's only there for 4 months. So if you're going anytime between, I think August might be the end. And then to the Yankees game. But last minute we got tickets to the Liberty game, Liberty versus the Fever, WNBA. That was our home opener, which I didn't realize. But yeah, the season just started on May 14th. So that was a great experience. Like I thought that the Pelicans, the NBA Pelicans team had great entertainment. I don't think they have anything
it's
on the
unmatched. It's
Liberty.
unmatched.
Yeah. And Pierre, everyone knows that Pierre the Pelican is one of my favorite mascots, but the Liberty have has Ellie and it's an elephant. Oh my gosh, like she can dance. She did her own performance. I felt like she was on a runway show the whole time, came out with like a designer bag. Like
Saw the
she,
designer bag.
yes, she has a long braided ponytail that she like whips around. So follow the Liberty mascot Ellie on Instagram because you'll get to see that. And the ESPN Women's has been posting a lot of her. So she's a big deal there. But the atmosphere of the game, it was packed. Liberty was one of the finals in the championship game last year. They lost to the Aces. So they're one of the best teams. I think there's three like top teams in the WNBA, which is the Aces, Liberty, and the Suns. Um, Connecticut Suns. So it was a great game getting to see Sabrina, and there was celebs there. I sent you your favorite guy.
Which made me so happy. She
Yes, so
saw
Ted,
Jason
yeah,
Sudeikis,
I was about to say Ted
and
Lasso, but that's who
who
he
is
plays.
really big for Caitlin Clark
But he
in
had on New
Iowa.
York.
But he was totally repping Liberty, and that made me just really happy because I
But
just
and I think everyone was shocked because everybody was like, oh, and like I told you, we were talking before. I guess we were sitting in like the fever, the Indiana fever, yeah, Indiana fever section, because we weren't too far behind the bench of the away team. Um, but even the people, they were like, "What? He's in New York? Like he's a Caitlin Clark fan." And I think he went to Iowa. So, but everyone was shocked, and he was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Oh, okay."
probably I cheered for her in the big one. Now I have to come back. Yeah.
And he did take a photo with Sabrina after,
Oh,
so
okay.
maybe maybe he could be both fans. Like, maybe New York is his home for professionals. But it is a great atmosphere. I think one of the best games entertainment wise that I've been to. Um, so I'm excited to go to more WNBA games and see how the atmosphere is. But it was a great performance. We talked about it last week how Caitlin, is just getting a rude awakening. Like she's not in
You
Iowa
saw
anymore.
quite a game
And she
for
like got
her.
knocked down. And I was like, and they didn't call a foul. She also did a play
For
where
those of
she
you,
got called a foul. And I was like, yes, Caitlin, that was a foul. Like
yeah,
it's time to get called.
for those of you who did not see this, and it was a pick, they set a pick or screen. They did it perfectly. But oh my God, I feel like if there's anyone who's showing Caitlin that she is not an Iowa anymore, it is these WNBA players, because I think it was Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu. Um, Caitlin just ran right into them.
Well,
Like I
and
think it was Brianna. I think it was Brianna
yeah,
Stewart. She just ran right, set the screen, and just went boom. And like you can tell that Caitlin was like, I
she
did
was
not see
like
that one
fall
coming.
onto her butt. And
Yes.
then Sabrina did a play
She faked her
where she faked her, and then like Sabrina
to
like
the
walked
three.
back like this. Like I loved it, like the talking trash,
And I
it's
think,
like, hmm,
yes. And I'm not saying this to hate on Caitlin. I think it's just been such a, and I think because it's for the first time that we're watching it. Like, unfortunately, we're just so late to watching,
yeah,
just how great that these women players are in the WNBA. So I think like to see, because I mean, unfortunately, our attention was on college hoops for women. And then now
yeah,
we're getting to see like, oh my God, there's this whole game and this whole elite skill that we have not seen, that we've been missing out on. And it's like, oh, we need to be giving. And then, like, there was talk with Brianna and there was talk with Sabrina. Like, I remember those talks, but there wasn't a lot of attention. So I think
no,
that now Caitlin and Angel have brought attention to the other good players in the WNBA who have paved the way, who just didn't maybe have the lane that they had. So I think just like
yeah,
watching, and I think that, Caitlin, I know that I hate that everyone is being hard on her, because it's just, you have to think about, we talked about it before we pressed record. We were seeing Brianna Stewart and Sabrina have all this chemistry on the court and how they can
hmm,
flow with each other and know what this other person will be whenever they do one thing and the other. And like Caitlin 2 months ago was still playing college ball.
yeah,
Like
like they
she
don't
is
have a
still
lot of
getting to know that
time.
team. She's still getting to know her rhythm. She is still getting like adjusted. That I hate that people are already like, again, I know I just started this whole segment with like they're letting her know that she's not in college anymore. But like
But that's in
I think,
every
yeah,
pro sport. You're
yeah,
letting the rookies coming in, like,
yeah.
I don't care how good you were, but they respect her for your talent. But then it's still like a fresh slate. We don't care how good you were there. You have to prove yourself on the higher level.
Like we've been
Everyone.
here for years. We've been here.
Yeah.
Like kind of
Yeah.
situation. And and some of those girls do have rings and they're just like, we like, again, I think,
Because Caitlin can shoot a three, but so can Sabrina. Like,
yeah.
she just had a competition. So it's like you guys didn't play at the same time, but now you have people that are
I
matched with
forgot
you.
she did that with Steph.
Yeah, like she had a 3-point
So
contest
recently, yeah.
at the
She
NBA
did the NBA
All-Star,
one. And she did the NBA
and
line.
she was shooting from the NBA line, which I think Caitlin can do too, but you're not the only one that can shoot. And so
Yeah.
I
And I
think
think,
Caitlin's going to have to
okay,
get
I get that
stronger.
little movement now. Now I understand that a little bit more. But
Yeah.
like again, I think, first of all, I'm just happy that we're talking about it. But I did
Yeah.
watch the highlights of that game and I was like, oh, they're making sure that they know. Which
No,
like but I get the veterans vibe
but
of it. Like
also
we've been
New
doing it for
York,
years and y'all haven't been talking about it, but because this girl comes
right.
in and y'all are going to, like, this is
But
my
and
home opener.
I
I've been
think
doing this.
they
Yeah.
but I think that all of the vets do respect Caitlin, because
Oh
I
yeah.
think
I think it's respect.
they all understand that this generation coming in, and I'm pulling in all the ladies that got drafted this year because college was so big that we were all watching and we just followed in, like Caitlin, Angel, um, Camilla, yeah, is that her name right?
Hmm.
Coming in, um, that we're paying attention to more, so they're bringing more light. So I think they understand that, but then at the same time, like, hey, like you said, we have been here. But the New York Liberty are a tough team. Like just watching them play again, you said the chemistry, they've been there, they've gone head to head with the Aces, who is another top team. Um, and I think their game on, was it Saturday too, when they played the Sparks, that was a cool game to watch too, because of course they're the more dominant one. But Kate Martin, who played with
Yeah.
Caitlin, like had a hit on Kelsey, and Kelsey was just like,
Oh yeah,
I
I
love
love,
Kelsey's, like, she was
I
just
love
like,
that picture.
damn,
I love that
but
picture.
it's like, okay, you guys are coming in, but it's still like, and I
And
think
I think
Caitlyn
that
just
like
has to
you're
get
not seeing
stronger.
that with, and then I don't know enough of the other girls on the sorry, other women on the Fever, where like I see Kate being chalked up from
But
Kelsey
Aaliyah
Plum's drive.
Boston,
I don't,
people,
yeah.
Aaliyah
So like
Boston's
I
on the
feel
Fever.
like I'm not seeing like maybe that's what it is. Like I feel like when it's the Fever, it's all about Caitlyn that I'm like, but I think she has like some other good teammates. Like I think that like there are people building
She
her up and
does.
you're just not seeing it as
But I
much as like
think,
again that Caitlyn. I mean the Kate and Kelsey thing was everywhere.
yeah. But also the Fever, we talked about this last time. They weren't the best team because they got two number one picks. Like Aaliyah
Mhm.
Boston came the year before. Aaliyah was number one from South
Yeah,
Carolina, and she's on there and she is great. But I guess it's they just need to build. And then to be the number one pick, you obviously weren't the
yeah.
top of the league for you to get
So
the
they're
number
just in
one
the
pick.
rebuilding, which is like what
Right.
I mean. You talk about football, like Bryce Young going to the Panthers was like
Yeah.
have fun. Like,
Like I think it's there because they had some good, good players. And again,
yeah,
Aaliyah Boston. And just speaking of Aaliyah Boston, Dawn Staley was at the game, and I just love their relationship and how much Dawn Staley like still supports her players that are long into the league. Like she supports Asia Wilson so tough, and then with Aaliyah Boston, like to be there to see Aaliyah, and then to defend Aaliyah after one of their other games against the Suns, where Aaliyah missed a layup or a shot that is she normally would make or whatever, and they I think they did lose, but um she still supported her. Like I still would she said I still would trust Aaliyah with the ball. So I
yeah,
just love that relationship. But that was a great game, the Liberty game. If you're ever in New York during the WNBA, I would say go, because the whole atmosphere about the game and the way that crowd reacts to the players and to the game is amazing. So I would just recommend going to that. I think they are, because it seems like I have two teams in every sport. They would be my second favorite team to watch just because those girls are so tough.
yeah.
Outside the Aces are my number one. But yeah, it was a good game. But also speaking, and did you see that LeBron James said that he kind of like defended Caitlyn and said,
I know Chuck just
she's
said
the
something too.
winning.
Charles
Yeah.
Barkley just basically called out how like women were being petty. Um, yeah.
Why we gotta be petty? But if a guy, if a
Well,
guy's
like
doing,
it's kind of funny about like how we're being so petty about like how we're giving up on Caitlyn already, and it's like, and he
but I
said
don't
he
think
goes,
we're giving up. I think it's the ones like we said, you're not in
mhm,
Iowa anymore. You have tougher
yeah.
competition
I
because
mean, I'm
she
not agreeing
was,
with it. He just literally released
yeah.
the same. Yeah, I was like, I don't.
Well, I'm saying that too, Charles. Then,
Yeah,
but yeah, she still was amazing in hitting them shots, and it was like, oh damn, like when she
hmm
hits it to see that in person. But then again, it's like you had it easy in college compared, the
yeah,
competition, I think, and the toughness of the defense. But I still, like we said, always she's great. And then another one of our favorites, Angel Reese, who we do love, and from the LSU, she graduated, which I
yep,
think that was a shocker because people didn't realize that she was done, and she kind of was like, "Y'all thought I wasn't gonna graduate."
yep.
But she's
And then
also,
in the amount of time that she did, I think the
yeah,
fact that yeah,
and then she also is part owner of the soccer team, and I
yeah,
think it's Power FC, so the Power Football Club in DMV, her hometown. So she's a part owner, and we see that trend that a lot of celebs are investing in being part owners in women's soccer teams here in the United States.
yeah. I'm
But
excited.
that's
I
good for
think that
her.
they're finally doing again. I'm excited for what's to come with women's sports because
Yes.
the right people are in the right place right now. It seems like
Yeah.
yeah,
While we're talking about basketball, you're the only one that can still be happy in the playoffs. We're down to the conference finals.
Yeah, so there's two teams on each, the West and the East, and my Celtics won last night in overtime. And there's a lot of conversation about the Celtics. There's just been a lot of buildup, a lot of parts being put into this team, and it's been a long time coming. And basically, everyone is saying if this season does not end in a championship, it's a bust because they're the first ones to really clinch the playoffs. They clinched it like weeks before anyone else. They've just been having such momentum. They're finally getting into their groove. I think, like we talk about teams finding their chemistry and whatnot. I think Tatum is finally kind of taking the role as the face of the franchise and the leader and just kind of running with that. And again, they're playing the Pacers,
Who just knocked off
who
the Knicks,
who
we were
knocked
in
off
New
the Knicks,
York for that game. We
which
didn't go to
was
the
wild,
game.
which is
And yeah.
another, it went to the game seven. And I don't know if I'm one of the people who think it's rigged because there's so many game sevens now. I don't know if I would go that far.
But
I just think,
we have been saying that since the Lakers, like this, people have been saying this is scripted because so many teams were winning back to back. But so that
yes.
is a controversy.
But I also think it's kind
Controversial.
of exciting this year because the ones that are left are kind of like, oh, we
Not your
haven't seen this
superstars.
before because the Timberwolves just knocked Minnesota, who's playing Dallas tonight. Dallas is my other team. Minnesota just knocked off Denver, who were a repeating champ. So this is, I think, the first time since, I could be wrong. They posted about on ESPN, but it's the first time I think since like the 90s maybe that they don't have a reigning champ even in the playoffs right now. Like the fact that it's been this long, and we were talking about this before we hit record, that the highest paid players of the NBA, the top 15 are not present. Or I think number 15 is, again, I pay attention to my teams and that's it, guys. Sorry. But it
I
looks
think we all
like,
kind of do.
right. So yeah, I think, wait, why is he ranked before Luca when he has 37.6? Wait, who's this guy? Sorry, guys, I'm pulling it up. A guy, Rudy Gobert, plays for Minnesota. Sorry, for some reason, Google did not rank him where he was supposed to go. He is the 15th highest paid player, and he beats Luka Doncic, who's on the Mavs. But everyone above him did not make the playoffs. So a lot of people are like, you have all these contracts, you have all these big numbers, and they're not performing. So like, what's this mean for the NBA? So that's a really kind of cool tidbit to know. Luca is playing for the Mavs. Luca's my guy. And
And it's a close game right now.
yes, I know. I
You
know.
okay, so last week you were nervous and then they both have made it to the conference finals. Like
I'm
last
so
time they
nervous
were
because it's also like I'm going to be happy with
at
whoever
least
goes
you
because I
can
think
be
I
nervous.
want,
I'm over here like I don't care.
well, like I think, and again, I'm all about that story. I've been watching Luca since he came. And so I really feel like, and I've said this before, this is like bringing Kyrie to Luca was the best thing for the Mavs because I think just giving Luca another person to play off of and grow with and to like spin off of. I even said this years ago. It was when Jason Kidd who is a former Mavs player and he's now a coach. And I said this on a date. And I was like, yeah, I really think Jason Kidd's the one that can like really help Luca. And like I was like, really? And I was like, yeah, like I think, yeah, I do. And then they've gone to the playoffs like ever since. And I want to be like, yeah, bro. Yeah. So first it took the coach, and then now I think giving him teammates like Kyrie have been really great to get them where they are. I'm still bitter that he didn't get MVP and that Josic got MVP and Josic got eliminated. So like now there's no, or maybe it was the MVP stat. I can't remember. Either way, it was the face of Josic and like the fact that like there's like no contender like it's all new teams for the first time in a very long time. Like Aaron said, we always thought it's kind of rigged that the Lakers somehow would always make it or the Warriors would somehow always make it. This is the first time that the teams who really kind of have really shown themselves. But even Minnesota has been a team, honestly, I thought came out of nowhere.
I think so
That
too,
kind of, I
like,
think
because
just
it
where,
wasn't until these playoffs that,
yes,
Anthony Edwards obviously has been doing good, but it was like he became more of a household name and more prominent during these playoffs
yeah,
that it's like he kicked up a notch where people were just like, okay,
you can't ignore them. So,
yeah.
everyone was making jokes that Josic was just losing so he could go home and play with his horses
Well,
a week early.
I'm glad Denver got knocked out because one, they knocked out the Lakers. Thunders got knocked out. Thunder got knocked out. They knocked out the Pels. So both of my teams out. I think it was a cool photo with obviously it was AI generated or photoshopped or whatever, but it was Anthony Edwards standing on the corner holding a Joker's mask.
Oh, yeah.
Because when after they eliminated Denver.
Mhm.
But I thought that was funny. But yeah, I forget about Kyrie going. And so that would be interesting for Dallas to win it because Kyrie's been chasing
Yes.
for a ring and really
He's been
wanting
chasing
one.
it. Luka needs one. Because I'm just always like again with Dirk. That I think the Mavs like have finally really worked at it because I think for the longest time people were like Luka just needs people, Luka just needs people, and like there's this really sweet press conference moment of them like this weekend of like what Luka and Kyrie like mean to each other, and it's just been kind of like again I'm all for a story, but then I also get like the weird reason why people would want Minnesota. This is like it's been I think it's been 20 years since they've been. I think it was 20 years to the day of them going to like qualifying for going into the
Yes, with
Eastern
Kevin
Conference or something.
Garnett.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just
I
wild if you think about like what I was doing. Like when people do like 20 years ago and I'm 33 and I like remember things, I'm
yeah,
like,
like I was
oh my
alive
God,
and
I'm old
doing
enough to
things
have
that
20-year-old memories. Like, okay.
no, for
Um,
real. And those
yeah,
are the good times because Kevin Garnett was one of my favorite,
I remember Kevin.
except for when he played for Boston.
Oh,
Then I
I see. I was
couldn't.
like, I loved when he played for Boston.
But I
Yeah.
couldn't like him, especially when they played the Lakers. But he was always one of my favorite players in the league during that time. And
Hmm.
so when I saw that, I was like, dang, that is crazy.
Yeah. So I
Like
think it's
to
like
the
going to be
day.
yeah. I know. I thought that, yeah. And I think it's going to be a good story regardless. I think
Yeah.
if it's obviously if it's Minnesota and Celtics, I want Celtics to go all the way. If it's Indiana versus Mavs, I want Mavs to go all the way. But I
And
also
then
just,
like as you were talking about that, like with Indiana, like they haven't had one since Reggie Miller, I
yeah,
think, haven't even made it this
like a
far.
chance. Yeah, they haven't had a chance
Yeah.
since that year.
And
So,
so it's a lot of underdogs,
and like, but
coming
it's like,
in.
it's like enough, it's like underdogs, but then the other two are also like, still like they're not the Golden State, they're not the Lakers,
No.
like
Which is
they're
why
just
I'm saying like all of
the
these are
kind of bigger
underdogs because
names. But
yeah.
yeah, like that's why it's kind of exciting because it's like, but it's not I mean, yeah, like Luca and Tatum are kind of like the face like franchise names, but they don't have any rings to their name. So it's like this weird like there's like it's like the ones who just barely made it and the ones who are like so close they can taste it but like still don't have anything by their name kind of. So it's anyone's game, so I'm really excited to see.
So
um yeah.
I hope it's not ranked, but if like listening to the media right now, and if you were had to say it was scripted, I would say that Minnesota was going to win it all
You
because
think so?
I feel like if it's scripted and we're like looking at the media as like a
And I think
guide
if
to where
it's
it's going,
rigged, I think a lot of people think if Celtics win it's rigged,
just
but
because they're saying like they have to or it's a bus.
yes.
Yeah.
So like, but I'm not saying it is. And again,
No,
I will
yeah.
not be mad if the Celtics beat Minnesota. I will have conflicting feelings if Luca is on the losing end of the championship. So like I don't think I'm ready for what to watch that. But like I will be happy for Celtics. But like I
It's
know a
like,
lot there's just so much on the line for
yeah,
that team and that season to have built like they've done everything that they can to be great. That it's like honestly, it's like they're the Iowa of like the championship.
they
Like
just
it's
can't
like they
make it
could
at the
that they
very
keep
end.
going, they keep doing all these great things, and like when it counts, it doesn't happen. Like the same thing happened, I think, last year. So,
Well, then Minnesota
yeah,
is LSU first year champion, first the
right. Like
second.
they just show up, man, and
Yeah.
it's like,
It was
eh,
like, where did all these people like? She got Angel Reese,
yeah,
Anthony Edwards, she got
right. Like, yeah,
Rudy. Like she, you're getting these people and like they're gonna win it. But it is crazy because any four of these teams
but I feel
haven't
bad.
been
No
there
one's
in a
talking about the
while,
Pacers. No one's saying shh about the
except for
Pacers.
Reggie Miller. But it's still like any one of these, you could be like, oh man, like they really could have used that. Like their fan
I
base,
think it's
like,
gonna be.
oh,
I do think it's going to be a. I think there are going to be a lot of game sevens. I do think
yeah.
that, and
Well,
not in
one,
a
that's
rigged
more
way.
money.
I
That's
think in
more
a
money.
like but I
Yeah.
don't I like I think when there's such a good story, like I know that maybe I'm just naive, but I'm like I think with this talent, like it's really like a like that's the thing with Boston. Now we need to get to the next sport, but that's the thing with like they would have these blowout games, and then like 2 games later they would lose like in this ridiculous way that you're like, I'm sorry, refresh? Is that the score? Like what? So like that's again like what makes all of this like
Maybe they're all hungry,
it's
so
still anyone's game. Like I know y'all
yeah.
are talking about Celtics and I know that they have Jason Tatum, but like their losses haven't exactly just been like, oh, it's like a shot loss. It's like no, like they lost soft.
Yeah.
And so it's anyone's game at this point. So like
So I think we're both get have like so right now we are recording Wednesday and it's game one of the Western Conference. The Eastern Conference, did they start yet?
yeah, Boston won last night in
Last
overtime.
night. So we're in our first games for this week. So we'll be going into game two. Um, so we'll see if we go all the way to game seven and then we'll have the championship, which could be another 7 games. So we'll be ending in June before the draft because the NBA
Yep.
draft is in June towards the end. So we shall see. Another
We
sport
shall
coming
say.
to a close, but
We still have a
it's
50-50
good.
shot that I'll have a team in it. So we'll see.
Yeah, Mary, we're gonna have to maybe next year we're not doing this podcast because I need my
But
teams to go. No. No,
y'all
your
know
teams
me.
are
I'll
just
just
on
find a
a
story and I'll be like, I'm going for this person. Yeah.
well, like I said, if
I'll
I had
always
to
find a
choose,
team. I'll always find
yeah,
a story.
if
That's
I
how it
had
works.
to choose, my story is the Anthony Edwards, maybe because they compare him to Kobe and the Jordan.
Hmm.
And I just do like what his last not conference, press conference, but last interview with the TNT crew with Chuck was like, "Oh, I need
So
to get to
get your ass.
Minnesota," and he was like on TV, "Get your
They've
ass
been
here."
running that. There's like a whole marketing plan with
Yeah.
them. So
So, but yeah, so that should be interesting. Now is the time to start watching that, because it's good games. Go to a bar. Um, touching on our favorite sport, but going back, we just want to touch and give you some follow up about in the NFL, not the Patrick, but the
the
Kansas
Chiefs.
City kicker, Harrison Butker, who gave a commencement speech. We talked about it last week because he said women's vocation was to be housewives, and your life really isn't complete until you become a wife and a mother, running all of that, which, has more. We talked about some, but we didn't even touch on like till you become a mother, like what about the women that can't had kids, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, so there's a whole nother thing with that. But we had a whole thing about like, should Kansas say something like they have to? Well, the coach Andy Reid and the quarterback Patrick Mahomes finally spoke out, pretty much said that Harrison does have a good character, and that we should allow everyone to have their own opinions, but their opinions don't reflect everyone's thoughts. So basically, Harrison's opinions are valid for him. He can feel those and he can express them, but that doesn't speak on behalf of the team. And Patrick said he doesn't agree with everything that he said, which he said everything. So it's like, what part do you agree with, Patrick? But
I know that was very strategic of how he handled that.
yeah, but he did say Harrison has a great character, in the locker room, and that doesn't take away from the great person that he is. But he doesn't agree with all that, but he has a right to his opinion. So what are your thoughts on that since they finally spoke out?
I think it's such a PR ploy. And
Because they're not
I,
getting rid of him, obviously.
yeah, and I think that, yeah, I think at the same time, I was like, I think it just shows you how how this isn't black and white at all. Cause I just think about like, if it's not what you agree with, like, I feel like we have exiled some other players
For
who
giving their opinion
stood for things that people didn't 100% agree with, and they were
in the
still
NFL.
able to have a spot. And I think it's interesting that, and I need to be careful about how I am in this lens, because I have talked about the Chiefs and how they are the moneymaker for the league because they have brought the Taylor Swifties and they have the 2 time Super Bowls. Like, I think if this was another guy, I don't know, like,
Yeah,
I don't think it's just black and white. I think it's the fact that he does play for the Super Bowl champions who are bringing a lot of money into the league. And I think that there's a lot of power. Um, that is mine. I think,
yeah,
like, and again, I think it's great that he has good care. I'm glad that he's not completely of a crappy person, but I still think how it was all, and like again, how the nuns had come against like the people who were at the actual college were like, this isn't what we believe, this isn't what
mm-hmm.
we stand for. And the fact that he still just gets,
Because it was a Catholic school, so she like the
yeah,
Catholic
I feel like
nuns.
he just didn't get, and I get like, and at the same time to like even challenge me, like I don't know what I would have wanted to be his quote unquote punishment, but it's also like, oh, he just gets
Well,
to go home
I
and
think,
still do what he does and still believe what he
yeah,
believes. And like, I think
well,
a statement from him to be like, hey,
yeah,
you're right. I do come from a mother who, like, Chelsea Handler posted something, and I said I wasn't going to bring it up. I said I wasn't going to talk about this, but she brought it up, like, who paid for those lessons for him to be such a great cooker? Who paid for his college tuition, or who paid for all those things? His mom who stayed home? No, his mom who had a working job and was able to do these things. So I think,
right,
and my best friend is Catholic. My best friend is a devout Catholic. She's a freaking doctor. So like for people to be
yeah.
like, oh, he just preached on Catholic like views, and I'm like, no,
Well, and so Catholic
I
Church
don't
is
know
changing.
anyone.
Yeah,
Like all my Catholic friends work, and like my
but
best friends,
that's
yeah.
very
So like I think
old
it was just
school
like a
Catholic.
big like mask of like, okay, we're gonna pick and choose what we when we apply this and when we don't. Cool.
But and I don't think that's, well, I don't really know the old school, but like, okay, the Pope who just had an interview with Nora O'Donnell on CBS was saying how he has changed the culture of the Catholic Church when it comes to gay marriages, all of that stuff. Open, he's a people's pope and everything like that. So I don't think that's a Catholic thing anymore, of the new age, maybe old school, but yeah, I don't get how your mother does all that, but then you're like, oh, you should stay at home. But your mom, like you just said, was the one that got you to where you were going. Because if she didn't do that, you wouldn't have been able to. But I think the punishment definitely could have been you have to make a statement because, like we
Yeah.
said, other
The fact that like we're
athletes
hearing from
and
the others is like, but
yeah,
I'm still not hearing from who
but
I should hear from.
they should make him apologize in a sense that he was telling them that they should do that, not like this is my
Like if
opinion. He
I was
said
his
this is what you
PR
need to do.
person, I'd be like, you need to go and work with some women in STEM. And like that's what we need to do. Like if I was his PR person, I'd be like, that's where we're going right now.
Well, and then I
We're
think
gonna
it's just bad, like we said last week, that it's for a team that introduced women into this sport. So you basically talk down to all of these women. Now, some of those women may have feel the same way he does because they're homemakers and maybe they believe in that. But the fact that a lot of your fan base now are women
and I think the fact
for
that
a
other people are
woman
having
that
to
is
speak
strong.
out for him and not him is really annoying.
Yeah.
But
So I
that's
think
a
that
conversation for another day.
yeah, I
But
think that could be his punishment in that sense, you know, like no, we never want someone to lose their job.
yeah.
But if you do it to other people for what they stand up for, where they've had to
I would
apologize,
just like to know that
then
his
yes.
was open to listening to what people had to say, of thinking maybe I should rethink how.
Because like the comments that were shared, we didn't I didn't watch or I wasn't at the graduation to see exactly what he says. We're getting quotes that stuff could be missed because the media does, you know, make things worse than what they are. But from what we saw, it was more of like, oh, I don't respect your opinion or your thoughts. It was like, this is how it should be from him.
Yes. Yes.
So if we have to accept you for this is your opinion, you have a right to do that, but then you respect us for not doing it. It didn't feel like that from reading the quote.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sorry,
that
I
was
also
his
just want
vote.
to see if
Mm-hmm.
anyone who is watching this, I am still keeping up with the Mavericks game. So if that's why at some
Yes,
points I'm like,
because
it's
it's a close one.
it is close.
Uh,
But
but it's
yes.
only
So yeah,
game one, so
I think a part of me is just I still think he needs to say something or needs to do something of like,
yeah.
hey, here's some money to women in STEM.
And so we kind of talked about this too because the Kansas also has Rashid Rice, who is one of their great wide receivers who's had some trouble during off season with the rest. He had I think it was a 6-car accident and he fled the scene or something like that. So he had that. Then he had an altercation within a club or something within the club and got arrested. So there's that. And then this, hopefully because of our not so loving the Chiefs as a team, that this is distraction
Maybe,
that they don't
maybe,
come out strong when the
hopefully.
season starts. So hopefully that
Yes.
happens. But I hope Rice, does get it together and he can still play. But we just hope these are distractions so that they don't have to win. I want them to all
Right.
have their job and,
Right.
and all of that, but we don't want them to go again.
Right.
Um, so one other thing on the NFL that I saw that was very interesting is Russell Wilson and Justin Fields competing for the quarterback position for the Steelers when at the beginning in March when Justin Fields got traded and picked up at the Steelers after they had traded and got Russell Wilson, that it was kind of thought, I don't know if it was said, but thought that Justin would be the backup quarterback for Russell Wilson. But during practices, interviews, Justin said, no, we're competing because the head coach Tomlinson said that yes, it's a competition. He's opening it up so no one Justin could if he's better. And Justin said, I am competing. We make each other better, but I'm not trying to sit on the sideline the whole season. So, who do you
I've
think is going to
said
win out?
I think I'm kind of happy to hear about this because I've said Russell Wilson is not my favorite quarterback. I think he is done. I think a lot of people need to come to terms that we are not going to get prime Russell Wilson anymore. Into the fact that these teams are paying him tons of dollars. Like again, I am glad that the Steelers one is just a 1 year, I think. that I'm like, good, because I think the whole Denver thing was a fiasco. And I think we just need to come to terms that Russell Wilson is not a longevity type of athlete that we thought he was going to be. So
And I
I
think we're
think he
still
has his
waiting.
moments every now and then, but I do not think that he is someone that you can build a team around.
Yeah. And I
So
also want Justin to get his time because
I think it's the
Chicago wasn't a good fit
quarterback.
and
I think it's
he's
time of the new quarterback. I think we
mm-hmm.
talked about this last year, kind of like it's time for Aaron and Russell to kind of hang up the cleats because now it's the running quarterback. It's the one who doesn't stay in the pocket. It's the one who could also play defensively, like the Joe Burrows. Like it's time for you to hang it up.
And Justin was with Chicago last year and didn't do so well as far as the whole team didn't. They have Caleb Williams coming in, but not to say that Justin wasn't good or Chicago wasn't good. They weren't a good fit. Maybe things are changing with Chicago, but I also like to see Justin come out and hopefully he has a great coach that if he does win out that he can show us the new era and he can be along those lines of the ones that we're talking about in the new era. So that it will be interesting to follow this storyline for the next couple of months
Yes,
until season. Along with we haven't heard much of Aaron, so as you spoke of him, but he should be returning. So we'll see what happens with that.
I'm sure we'll hear from him. I'm
Yeah,
sure
he's not
something
too
will
far
be
behind.
released as soon as we end this.
Yeah. Just because we said his name.
Radar will go off and he'll be like, ooh,
Something else that we talked about last um week and a lot has happened in the PGA in golf this week. Just last weekend, a lot has happened, and we talked about Scottie and the championship, PGA championship happening. Catch us up, Meredith, because Scottie had a weekend,
plot twist, Scottie did not win the PGA Tour
but he got
championship. He did
arrested.
not win it because he did walk away with something though.
4 charges.
So Friday morning, I wake up fairly early because I had to go somewhere for like 7, and I check my phone, and it's like 6:15, and it says Scottie Scheffler arrested at the PGA Championship like gates.
And the championship starts Friday.
Yes, like the real round is
Yeah.
like this day. And I'm like, and again, for those of you who aren't familiar with Scottie Scheffler, like Scottie Scheffler's not, many golfers are not problematic people. Like they're not like rager, like, or they just have really good PR. That's what I'll say. Like
We don't know their life
we don't
outside.
have like any like John Daly's who like we don't have like old school like young Tiger Woods people anymore. Like it's just different now. It's just different. Got a little different PR. And and of course I'm just like trying to get more information while also getting ready for this meeting, like all the things. And I'm texting my sister and like or like it's so funny how many people texted me to be like, did you see this? I'm like, oh, I've been reading about it all morning, guys. Like
Breaking
I
news. Yeah.
know. So he was pulling so at 5 a.m. or around 5 a.m. outside the I think it's Valhalla golf tournament or golf course, there was an accident. A pedestrian was hit by a truck and sadly passed away. And so there was crime scene. There's policemen outside with tape and all the things because there's potentially a dead body. Or like, it's a crime scene. Well, Scottie Scheffler has a early tea time. So he only just sees police and he thinks it's security. And as someone who has played this tournament, who has won this tournament, is like, I am actually supposed to be here, so I'm going to skip the line. I'm supposed to get there. Well, that is a big no. And apparently the policeman did not know who he was. It was originally reported that a policeman hopped on Scottie's car and Scottie drove 10 yards. And it originally it was redacted to 10 feet because there is a significant difference. Because I'm like, with Scottie's chef, again, I don't know this man from Adam, but I'm like, I feel like you would know someone was on your car for 10 yards. Like, like
right? Or no,
I
a
think it's his
car.
actual car. I think it's his actual car
Okay. Okay.
because he's still pulling into
Oh, he
the
wasn't. Okay.
like thing. So it was
You
this
still
big
would
thing,
know.
but because he technically drugged this police officer who did not have his body cam on, so it's like words against
Mm,
other words.
yeah.
And Scottie has been very clear of like it was all a blur. It was all confusing. It all escalated very quickly. I was very confused. Like what he was thinking was happening was not what was happening, all these things. So 5 a.m. this happened, 6 p.m. I mean 6 a.m. Scottie gets arrested and it is filmed of like I'm sorry guys, it's like 7 seconds and there it's like a 2 point game. Um and we he gets taken in and it's like there's a film like a media was there and they were like what is happening like and they're just like he's going to jail, he is going to jail, and never once anyone is like but that's Scottie Scheffler. No, it's like he's a golfer here, like nothing. It's just like he technically assaulted a police officer and refused a traffic stop, like all the I think there are 4 counts, and he gets booked at 7 a.m. He so all these things. He is released. He has a mugshot and everything. Pretty. It's been a quick morning, and by 9 a.m. he is getting ready to tee off for his 10 a.m. tee time. So
Game.
and he didn't. And so it's so funny. And I saw this tweet, and I should have been able to like quote it. But everyone kind of talks about so like I've talked about how golf is such a mental game, and how one thing can kind of throw you off if
Mm-hmm.
you're just like in a mental headspace. It's like you know what, there's nothing. Scottie had a, I think he eagled his first, or he birdied. He hit it under par. We talked about how par is actually going to be a very important term. Okay, Dallas won, I think. So
I think you're good.
that it's like and so he par is how many shots you have to make even on a hole. So par three, you have three chances, par four, things like that. And he hit par and under, which is really good for every hole on
Mm-hmm.
Friday. So it kind of just shows you what kind of a mental beast he really is as a golfer, because he did not let getting arrested and starting his day in a jail cell be deter anything about his skill. So strangely, Saturday was the day that Scottie just decided to
It
not
all
be
hit
stopped.
him.
Yeah, it probably all hit him. Take in mind he's coming from the birth of his first child.
I was just about to
Um,
lay that out. Like, let's give
first,
the
like,
last couple of weeks for him or
yeah,
week.
so he's had like he's won the Masters, become a dad, and now he's back, and now he's been in jail. So it's been a wild a month or so for him. And on Saturday, for the first time, and I think over 1,000 strokes, um, he hit a double bogey, which is worse than an actual bogey. A bogey is when you go over par by one. So when you double bogey, that's over by two. So it was a par four, and it took him 6 strokes to get into the hole. So, and that was the first time that he's done that in over a year.
Yeah.
And then he had some other bogeys. And but he still finished like I think in the top 10 or top 15. So the fact that he had one bad game, but like the
Yeah.
next day he was able to come. Like at one point he was like tied for 20th something, and then the next day I looked, he was tied for 11th, and then he was like sixth. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, Scottie. So I still think he's a tremendous player. But was really kind of exciting about for the PGA championship is that Xander Schaff, I do not know how to say his name. But he won. I think it's Shuffle. A lot of chefs
Yeah, I
names.
was noticing that. I was like, dang, your last name
It's
must
like a
have to
lot
be
of this.
SH. SCH.
Like I don't know if like I marry someone with that last name, then our kid's just automatically going to be a golfer. I don't know. But Xander had been really close in the past couple of years. I believe there was a major last year. It might have been the Masters. It could have been PGA, that he got really close to it, that he was like leading and then all of a sudden lost it. And that's just kind of the sport that golf is, that how you say, like there was everything in me telling me that even though Scottie had a terrible Saturday, he could come back Sunday and destroy everyone. Like it's anyone's game at any moment until like probably maybe 4 hours left of the tournament is when it's like, okay, let's be real. But it can be anyone's game. Anyone can have one mental hiccup, um, get thrown in jail, like things like that. That it was really exciting for Xander because it was his first major. So he'd been
Yeah.
doing, and he'd been like coming close for other things, like whether it was second or third, like he would just get really close. So it was, I know Erin kind of mentioned last week that she always likes it when an unknown or like a new person wins it. And so,
Yeah, because that's like,
yeah,
don't give up just because you came up close last year and then he wins it. Like, I love
yeah. And
that.
then like, I think about like, there's other golfers for those listening who like Jordan Spieth has been playing forever. And like, he had like a great intro to his career and he hasn't done anything for a couple of years. And like, Justin Thomas the same way, even though oh my God, if you watch the full swing season 2, I don't like Justin Thomas after he qualified for the Ryder Cup and like they bombed, but that's a whole thing. But like there's other ones that like I'm really glad that Xander stuck it out because there are a
Yeah.
lot of them on the tour that like they're just I don't want to say they're never going to get one, but like they haven't got one in a while. So like it's just kind of a
Yeah.
sport to like really stick with.
Unless
And
they're
then
our underdog next year, our storyline
yeah.
next
Well,
year.
like that was
Like,
the thing, like because I mentioned Jordan Spieth hasn't won PGA. That's the
I
one
was about to
major that
say
he has remaining.
was he a live golfer first or did he
No,
go
he's
over?
he's PGA. No, he hasn't left.
Okay.
He's like one of the PGA Golden Boys. Um,
I
but that's
remember
like
that
the
name.
one thing that he has remaining, and so like that's why like he didn't have again
Yeah.
a good start. So
Yeah, it
even
was
and then
a
a lot of people didn't qualify for the PGA. That like Phil
true.
Mickelson, I don't think Tiger did.
Yeah.
Wyndham Clark, who was really kind of one to watch, and yeah,
Yeah.
so that was the craziest. I never thought I'd be watching golf guy be
Yeah.
in. Like I retweeted the picture of his mugshot, and I was
Mugshot.
like, this was not on my bingo card for this. This was not what I thought I'd be
Well,
watching.
yeah,
But
because it was like crazy. Like you turn on ESPN on, yeah, because we turned on ESPN, but it's like everywhere was like breaking news was that Scottie got arrested and oh my gosh, he has to go. And so then ESPN, like with Get Up, it's like, oh great, this is about to be the storyline because they were like following everything. Like he's arrived at, for his 9 a.m. tee off, like, oh my God, let's follow. And I was like, if he does bad, the
they had
storyline will
guys
be because he got
already,
arrested.
yeah. And I think that's what makes it so fascinating, like just to kind of watch greatness. Like I know we talk about just athletes and their abilities, but like I had a really bad day at work one time and it was just like, oh my God, everything I hit, everything was just like awful. And I'm like, this dude was just arrested. Like had the
He
busiest,
probably couldn't even know what was going on because he was probably sleep deprived from a newborn.
you know, like that's what it's
And
like.
then
This
up at
dude
5
probably was
a.m.
just like, yeah, so I'm
If he was
here.
sweet enough to get up with his wife during
He was. He like was
shifts.
obsessed with Meredith, so he probably did. But like,
Oh, his wife's
yeah,
name is
it was just
Meredith?
yeah, that's why. That's not why he's my favorite. I just think he's been really fun to watch. That I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
how do you not cheer for this guy? And again, he just went out and like I think he bird I think he eagled or something his first
Yeah.
hole. And we're like,
But
yeah,
that is
cool.
cool that he did have the mindset to come back and play. That I think that does show like some of the greats. Like we've seen that in the NBA and all of that. Like, the loss of a parent or, bad
Yeah,
news happening and you're coming out and you just put it all out on the field, the court, wherever you're at,
yeah.
and you're able to separate the two. And sometimes that is a release of, let me just
Well,
not
I
think
think it was
about this
also
right
like
now and focus on
genuine.
something.
And I think like there was like genuine like chaos. Like I do think that he probably just thought of security. And I think
Yeah.
like so to have everything be so escalated when you have this morning tea time that you're like, all of a sudden I'm in a jail cell. Like, I don't like, and then
Yeah,
he
and
did
then it's
say that
like
he
you're
like,
not
yeah,
even drunk or anything. So it's like,
like, you
how
know what I
did
mean?
this
Like,
happen?
I was just going to work. Like,
Because
I
at
don't
first
know.
I thought when I'm singing, I'm like, okay, was he drunk? Like the night before, like what is going on? Like, did he get
That's
crazy before
exactly where I
hearing the
was like,
story?
what?
Yeah.
And then like, I think because I knew he had a like newborn, I was what is that? Like I just remember like I literally just woke up and I was like Scottie, like the Scottie Scheffler, like
The
what? And then yeah,
the
wild.
newborn his first weekend of the year. My dad won, got arrested.
And then they were like having all these tweets of like Scottie's kids, like, what happened like at your first tournament after I was born, Dad? And it's like that meme of the guy going like,
I did. They were saying I saw an article where they were like Xander and some of the other golfers said that they were roasting, probably, joking with him
oh
about being
yeah.
arrested after, like, because
Max
I mean
Homa
that
had a
is just
great
crazy.
Max Homa had a great tweet where he was like, lost to a guy who's in a jail on Friday morning. Like, not a good look for me. Kind of like just joke. Max Homa has all these jokes. But yeah, that was wild. And it was so funny because I go to work and like I know my friend's boyfriend really likes it. I was like, oh my God, what does he think about Scottie? And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, text him right now. Scottie Scheffler is like,
No, when I was like, oh, please do good because this is going to be a storyline all day long. Like, if he
yes.
doesn't do well, like, oh my gosh,
And it did
this.
wonderful. And then like I just and that's what I think is just I know I keep coming back to this, like the mental toughness to do that. And because as soon as you finish this round, you're gonna have to talk about it. You have to
Well,
answer it. Like there's
and
nobody on the yeah.
he's still facing like he has to go to court, possibly
Mm-hmm.
appear in
They
court,
said
and
that
there's
the
like
video
four.
is going to be possibly released or something.
Yeah, he
So
has four criminal
four
charges
counts.
against him. Yeah. So it's like you
Because it's
still
an
have to
assault
deal.
on a police officer from when he dragged them, trying to skip over the traffic court and like two other ones.
So yeah,
But
maybe Saturday was like you realize like, oh shit, like I gotta deal with this shit now. Sorry,
yeah.
all the cussing.
So
But
yeah,
oh my God, I gotta deal with this now
yeah,
after I'm playing because it's not just like, oh my bad, like there's charges,
yeah, yeah.
like
So
so
like
now
it's wild.
you have to fill that
And
out. So
I think it's again, I've never seen that happen. I've
yeah.
never first time. I'm
See?
telling you, it's the time to watch golf, ladies. It's the time to watch golf because got some juicy Kardashian like mug shots, everything. We got it. We got it here.
And coming back and playing. So we'll
Yeah.
see. Do you know offhand what's the next like tournament or big event for
They're
PGA?
playing Charles Schwab right now, but I don't
Okay.
think that like Scottie's out there.
Hmm.
But I don't think it's not a major. So,
So what is
but
usually because I'm learning golf just along with everyone because we're a learning community about all
yeah.
sports. But is this kind of like the season? Is there like a season of when there's like tournaments so like you're playing back to back?
Yeah, they have now's the time to do it. I think it wraps up around like October, November-ish. Um, let's see.
When weather starts to change, I guess, for those areas
Yeah, because
since it's
like
outdoors.
let's see. Mm, right now it's Charles Schwab. And then I don't know why it's doing that. I'm like PGA's tour schedule, and it's like all the things about happening this weekend. I'm like, I don't that doesn't tell me the schedule.
We're talking
Um,
about for the season, y'all.
so then let's see, apparently there's a Canadian Open, and then there's the US Open is later in June. And Travelers, I think, is a big one. That's in June as well. So I think like what makes it so like the Travelers, so like okay, US Open is June 13th through 16th. And then the next one is June 20th to 23rd. And then Rocket Mortgage is a big one too. Ricky Fowler won that one last year. June 27th to June 30th. And then like it's like every weekend. So it's kind of like, and
Tennis
then
it is in
if
June.
you haven't watched Full Swing, which is a really great Netflix series, if you want to learn about it, and I didn't know this, that if you travel to all of these you are paying like your own money. And again, golfers get paid nice money, but you also don't get paid unless you qualify. So those first 2 days, like if you miss the cut, you did all of that for nothing. You got no pay for that. You have to qualify to get some kind of cash out.
Yeah.
So like this week, because Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods didn't qualify, they got paid nothing. I mean, they're
Which
fine with
could
their
be
$1 million
nothing. I was about to
stuff.
say, which is nothing for them.
Yeah.
Well, it's
But
still,
like
you
if
could
you think
still worry
about the
about your
ones,
money.
they're like that kind of it's this is a segue, but like that kind of changed my idea about some of the people going to live, because like those older golfers are like, this is how I take care of my family. But like this one guy was like from Ireland and he was traveling to America and he like missed the cut by like one. And it was like, I spent all this money, I
And
have kids
time
back at home, like kind of
traveling.
situation.
Yeah.
So like they're doing all this every weekend. And like you think about the ones that like are doing a lot, and if you have nothing to show for it, do you go to the next one? Like it's this whole thing. So it's a strenuous, and like it's not an easy, I'm sorry, it's not an easy sport. Uh
I
I think
told
a lot
you
more
when I
people.
went to Top Golf, I was like, oh my gosh. And that was just swinging right there.
Exactly. Like I'm
So,
telling people, like it's not the easiest. It's all
yeah.
mental too. Like again, like just thinking about it. So that's what I really like about it.
Yeah.
And this is the season. So like the Scottish Open is in July. And then so they have like other stuff that like happens throughout the year. But the big ones are the US Open, the Masters, PGA, and I think golf major. I knew this, and of course, because I'm filming, I'm gonna forget. Um
Hey, we're learning.
Masters, PGA Championship, the US Open, and the Open. And I guess they're really got creative with the names because the US
Like two
Open and
of
the
it.
Open. It's like, okay.
Let's just, how can we name another one?
And
I'll
like
just drop
then
US.
there's the tennis US Open. So like
I
that's the time you're
know
like, which
that
okay.
is confusing. Like when, and then when you go on Instagram, you're like, oh wait, that's not the right thing.
Yes. You're like, oh, it's a different Open.
That's
Okay.
not the right
But it's
one.
different from the other Open. Like just yeah,
Right.
this whole thing. But
Well, yeah,
yeah,
I
that's
think
the
definitely
gist.
tune in. I mean, you don't have to sit there and watch a whole golf tournament if you don't,
If
want to, but get
anything,
those
keep up with it.
highlights.
Sunday's the day to watch. Sunday
Those are usually like the
afternoon.
end, like
That's
the
like
end of
what
the
I
tournament.
remember watching with my dad when I was younger, and it's what I watch with my dad now is Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you
So
never know,
yeah,
you might get an arrest out of it. So
there's drama everywhere,
yeah, and Rory
Every sport
McIlroy,
has it.
Rory divorced his wife, and it's rumored that he's been like with a golf correspondent. So there's scandal. There's scandal in the golf world.
She was doing a little bit more than interviewing, huh?
That's
After.
exactly what she, a little bit of off the record, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Or she was just trying to get the scoop, bedtime. What is it? Bedside or pillow talk?
Pillow
She's
talk, like with her recorder. Yeah.
So
So
tell me, I'm not gonna say anything.
yeah, I'm not gonna
My
say anything.
sources say.
Right.
But no, I think there's a lot of exciting things, even though it's kind of like a slow start. Again, I went to the MLB, the Yankees game, but MLB trades are coming up, so people
Yep.
can still be moving teams until July 31st.
Yep.
So if you have a favorite player that's somewhere,
This is where the trust issues come into play.
yeah, I guess is this like midway? So they like making through the season,
It's like it's just before midway because midway is normally July,
and then
but
is that when All Star is?
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll see who gets moved around, and who doesn't.
Yep.
At the Yankees game, Aaron Judd, who is one of my favorites, or not favorites, but I like him. He comes from Cali. Got his 13th home run. I was in the concession stand and I thought I had time because I was like looking at the batting and didn't realize he was up. I was like, what? But like I saw it on the screen, but I'm like, I'm here and I missed it in person. Like,
You
Aaron,
have
I've
to
been
go back.
waiting. Yeah, I've been waiting for you to do a home run because he was like, he struck out a couple times first, and I'm like, you would go right here. I thought I had time because looking at the lineup.
But now you have like a superstition now. So now you're like, yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, thank you for joining us for Girl Chat, and
Mhm.
thank you, Meredith, for teaching me a little bit something about golf.
Yeah. Wealth of knowledge.
I'll be
Thanks
tuning
for
in.
listening.
Yeah. No, I'll be tuning in. I hope Scotty does get one after his kid arrest, and well, we'll
All
see
right.
what happens with his arrest, if they'll drop it, if
I'm
he has
sure
the
we'll be reporting
charges
it
and all
soon.
that.
So
So yeah. And if we have any new unknowns winning any of these tournaments. So we'll see. But thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next time. We're going to be out next week, so there won't be an episode next week, but we'll be back following that. So make sure you like and subscribe, follow us on Instagram, catch up on our other episodes, and we will see you next time. Thank you. Bye.
later.